Welcome back to another episode of Resilience by Faith podcast. I just want to let you know this is going to be a very emotional episode. And if you are needing breakthrough, if you need God to come through for you in a major way, maybe you going through something or you're somebody you know is going through something and you just need belief right now, please share this episode with somebody in hopes that it will nourish their soul and hopefully bring perspective and glory and praise and reflection to their life. This is definitely going to be one for the books. I hope you bookmark it and come back and listen to it later when you feel like you are going through something and you need breakthrough anytime. Please save this episode and come back to it. But definitely, without delay, let's get into it. But I'm just letting you know if you are out and about and you're listening to this podcast, I hope you got some tissues because this might be one to make you cry. It made me cry. It might not be one to make you cry, but definitely I felt like Holy Spirit was definitely present. God was definitely present. And that's what this one is all about, is how God shows up and how he's always near and forever constant and present in my life, in your life. And is very heartfelt. And I'm just letting you know, if you're not a crybaby and you don't get very emotional, good, that's good. But if you know that you are, have you a box of tissues, or maybe come back and listen to this a little later because it might make you cry. But that's what part of breakthrough is, and that's how you see that God is present even in this very moment. Let's get into it, guys. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Resilience by Faith podcast. I am so happy that you're here. First of all, my name is Reese Jordan. I am your host, and I have been doing this podcast thing for 3 years. Believe it or not, we started in 2020. And boy, has it been a whirlwind. Okay, it's been a whirlwind. I just want to say that for those of you who are new here, I'm so delighted that you're here, that you chose to listen to this podcast. Out of the 1 billion podcasts that are out there, you're paying attention, you're tuned into this one, and I'm blessed to have you here. Please subscribe, please share the podcast episode with anybody that you know, because today we are talking about the good old Lord, the good God, the big God, the great I am. Okay, we're talking about how God is constant in our lives. And I felt like it was so necessary to talk about this at this time because I think that when you're doing life and life is lifing, okay, when life is lifing, that it's easy to get caught up in the weeds and what's going on, so much so that you don't pay attention to God, like kind of like how Peter stepped out the boat and he was looking at God. As soon as he shifted his gaze, he saw everything else, and everything else became more real or overpowered God's presence than just focusing on his presence and staying focused only on his presence. And I think life, oh my God, life just gets in our way sometimes. And sometimes we feel like the obstacles that we are up against are so much more bigger than God. And we are so wrong. We are so wrong because nothing is bigger than God. Nothing, nothing. And nothing is too hard for God. And we forget that whatever we're going through, God has already came up with a solution. Did you forget before you were even born, when you were in your mother's womb, that God had already ordained you to be here, written your story, and He is aware of every single obstacle that was going to come your way. He let it come your way to build character and to help you through or help you see something, because everything happens for a reason, whether it's for you or somebody else. But He also already ordained a solution. So it's already taken care of. It's already done. It's already done. When God took Calvary, it's already done. We forget that so much. We just be like, oh my God, my family member is sick, or oh my God, like I'm in a financial crisis, or oh my God, the car broke, the refrigerator broke, the dishwasher overflowed. Oh my Lord, I'm getting evicted. Oh God, like he already knew all this stuff was going to happen before it even took place, and he came up with a solution for you. Stop looking at your circumstance and shift your gaze back to God. And that wasn't even in my notes. Like y'all will see me look down from time to time for those of you who are watching video, and I'm reading my notes, but I know that was for somebody. I feel the chills. I know that was for somebody. So for those whoever's listening out there who needed that, you got it. That this is your confirmation to shift your gaze, to shift your perspective. Whew, y'all don't understand. Oh gosh, y'all don't understand. When God told me to make this podcast, I was like, "Are you crazy?" Um, Not me, not me. I don't like my voice. I don't like I don't feel like I am qualified. Like Moses didn't feel like he was qualified. Um, or Abraham, really anybody in the Bible didn't feel like they were qualified to do what God was calling them to do, but they did it, and they did it with grace. Okay, and they did it, and they succeeded, and then no, I don't think nobody else could have done it better. So God qualifies the unqualified, and I feel like going into season 3, I am finding my groove with podcasting, and I am just being myself. I felt like when God told me I had to do this podcast, that I was just like, oh my God, I have to be praying and I have to say a hallelujah every 2 seconds. But I don't. I can just be authentic. I can just be transparent to myself. And even if I don't mention God on an episode, God is always in the mix. God is always in the mix. The name of the podcast is called Resilience by Faith. By faith. I've overcome by faith. And if you have not read my book, Unfold My Ashes, Silent Tears That Became My Rebirth, I encourage you to read that, because that will help you understand me and what I've been through so much more, so that you can understand where I came from and where I'm going, and why I thought that, why I thought everything had to be perfect, or I had to be overly religious to incorporate faith, or to say this is a Christian podcast, or to say blah, blah, blah. Let me remind you, if you are a Christian, which I think that all of my audience mostly is a Christian, or at least you believe in God in some type of way, then you already know that God, even in the Bible, did not chill out and have lunch and, go to the mall with those who are holier than thou. Every person in the Bible that God picked was unqualified, unholy, and God used them anyway. Just want to remind you guys that I may reference things that are of the world. Okay. I may talk about, mention things that are very modern. That doesn't mean that I am any less Christian than you. Okay, I just had to bring that home because that wasn't in my notes either. But anyway, let's get into what we're supposed to be talking about today, which is God is constant. Okay, so I'm pretty sure everybody knows this song, Waymaker, by, I think it's Elevation Music. I believe I went to Elevation for a little while, so I think it's even when you don't feel it, he's working. Even when you don't see it, he's working. He never stops. He never stops working. So, like, I felt like this episode right here was going to be somebody's reminder of the goodness of God and how much he loves you, but more importantly, how pure his love is for you and me and everybody else that's listening to the sound of my voice. Okay. And I felt like I said, it's needed because life be life, and you be like, God, don't you see I'm down here and I'm going through all these things? Aren't you going to help me? Aren't you just going to poof, be my little genie and take all this away? And God is just like, oh, I'm here. Oh, I know. Oh, I see. Secondly, I'm not a genie. But it's to build your faith. That's another reason why God lets us go through what we go through, is because if everything was perfect, then we wouldn't need God. But more importantly, if we had nothing to pray to God about, then I mean, why is he here? You know? Like it's to remind us that we're always going to need our Father, and he's always going to be here for him to get the glory. It's not so much just that, oh well, you did something last week, so this is me repaying you for what you did. Or it's not that, oh well, you didn't pray to me for 3 nights in a row, so now I'm going to allow your engine on your car to go out, or for you to have a flat tire, or blah blah blah, like, or for your boss to give you fury at work and chaos and wreak havoc. Like, God, y'all trying to paint my father out to be the bad guy. And even I have done it too. And I'm just, why would you do this to me, Lord? Why would you allow this to happen? I'm guilty too, guys. Um, oh, Lord. I know that this is what I'm supposed to be talking about today. So, God is constant. So, I would definitely say, even the things that you pray to God to protect you from isn't the only thing that God is protecting you from. God is protecting you from things both seen and unseen, things that you know about and you don't know about. So every now and then, I would definitely say, since He is so constant, especially in my life and in yours, please don't forget every now and then just to thank God for protecting you and blocking you from the things that you didn't even know about. Whatever that is, just thank Him for doing that, because number one, He don't have to, but number two, He does, because you are the apple of His eye, because He loved us first, because He died for us, and because no matter what we do, God still loves us. God loves everybody. And this is what makes people want to be believers and makes people love God and have a faith so strong, because they start to learn His character. And I would definitely say, if you don't know who God is, you need to spend some time with Him. I created a whole journal. Let me see. Oh, here it is. I created a whole journal for people to cultivate intimacy with God. And I was strategic about the verse that I put on the front, which is First Peter 5:7. It says, cast all your anxiety, worry, and fear on Him, because He cares. Because He cares, to remind you that God cares. And even in the midst of the storm, when you feel like He's not there, when you feel like you have anxiety, you're having panic attacks, you're worrying, you have fear that this is going to happen or that might happen, or just to put all your worries on Him. So write it out, journal it, talk to God. That's how you're talking to God, through writing, through speaking, through prayer. You can do all that in this journal. And God gave me the vision for it, um, because it's just so important and it's so needed, to remind you that even in the midst of the storm, God is constant and God is ever so present in your situation, and that the solution for it has already been made. Um, I went through a situation when I felt like God didn't hear me. And even though the outcome was not what I wanted it to be, overall, I surrendered it to God. Um, and I definitely use this as an example. So, my grandmother was sick and I knew she was dying. And it got to the point where I was like, God, please don't let her suffer. Like, I'd rather you take her than to let her suffer. I can't be there. I can't be present and you allow her to suffer and cry and be in pain. Just alleviate all that. But more importantly, I will be sad when you take her. But God, I know ultimately that my grandma is not my grandma. That's your daughter first. Okay? And nobody can love her more than you. With that being said, if you decide to take her, then I know there should be no better place for her to be than with somebody who loves her so much. I love her, but you love her more than I ever could. More than I ever could. So what better place would it be for her to be than with you? It takes a lot to get to that point because this was the first this past Thanksgiving was the first Thanksgiving and Christmas without her. Her first birthday without her because she just passed February 22. So um, it's still fresh. But I definitely say I had to get to the point where I was just like, God, this is your child. She's my grandma and I love her. Go to war and back for her. But this is your child. You made her just like you made me in my mother's womb. You set out the whole blueprint for her life just like you did mine. And you died on Calvary for her, just like you did me. So, I mean, yes, it's going to hurt. Yes, I'm going to miss her. But what better place would it be for her to be than with you in heaven? I mean, enjoying the pearly gates and the golden streets and the place that you have prepared for her. What better place for her to be than to be reunited with my grandfather? So I had to come to terms that even in the worst time, because I thought when my grandma leaving, that was going to kill me. And my grandfather was the first one to pass, so I literally thought I was going to lose it. But when your grandmother's the last one to go and you don't have no other grandparent, you're just like, all right, this is it. The bridge is going to fall from up under me and I'm just going to drown. But that's not what happened. God was there, like, whew, God was there. God was there. So just pay attention because God shows up. God always shows up. And I mean, God didn't speak to me where I could hear his voice, or he didn't come to me in a dream, or he didn't send an angel, or I didn't see a flying cow that talked to me, or, nothing like that. It was just like one day in my spirit, I was praying to God and I was driving down the road. Because how many people know you don't have to be like on your knees and have your hands to your chest and be in your bedroom on the floor with the door closed to pray to God. You can talk to him while you're driving. And I was coming from a photo shoot and I literally was just like, you know what, God, I can't love her more than you. I would like to think that because that's my grandma and the only grandma I've ever known, but I can't love her more than you. I can't. I could try, but there's no way. There is no way. So, I literally surrendered that to God. And I won't say it became easier because that was a hurt like none other. But I can definitely say that I didn't fall apart and London Bridge is still standing. And I didn't lose my mind because I had to put it into perspective that she wasn't mine. She wasn't mine. And that was one example of like how God was constant and I didn't know. It doesn't always have to be something miraculous and or something like God can speak to you through a Disney movie, through social media, through podcasts, hello, through radio shows, through anything. He just and it don't have to be something where you hear his voice or you see something. He can just drop something in your spirit and all of a sudden you're thinking differently and you're turning it around yourself. But you're not turning it around yourself. You are, but it's through the grace, it's through God, it's through your faith that things are turning around. So y'all are trying to make a real thug cry. But I can't even lie. Like it took, I got teary eyed, but it took a lot when I was talking about my grandma because, like I said, it's still fresh and I miss her. every day. But I am thankful that God did that for me, and that I didn't think of it as, oh my God, it's the end of the world, and literally let London Bridge fall from underneath my feet and give in to depression and anxiety. But instead, look at the experiences and the times that I had with my grandma and be thankful that I had that, because God could have took her a whole lot sooner. So I hope that that helped someone out there to know that God is always constant. He's always working. And God, and right now, like we're in the present, right? God is years ahead of us, making sure that everything is in place that is written out in his little journal and his on his little blueprint for us, that the right people, the right place, the right time is appointed for what he want to happen and how he want it to happen. He's not in the present. God is not bound by time. He's years ahead of me, making sure that my kids are covered, my husband's covered. When I get a flat tire on the side of whatever highway, that there's going to be a person of faith there to help me out free of charge on their way, on their day off, on their way to wherever they're going, so that they're not bound by time or have any time restrictions, just so they could help me. And God made it that they were right there passing by at that appointed time to be there for me when I get that flat tire, or when my distributor cap, God forbid, because I had that happen one time. But you know what I'm saying? Like, God will put people in your place. He will put things in your place to cover you. And you got like, God, thank you that you were there. God, thank you you were passing by. God, thank you you saw that. God, thank you you were here to shield me from that. And like, you're my little angel. God put you here, but literally, God did. God put people there. So don't worry when you think that God isn't constant. God is always, always. He is present in the present, and He is present in the future at the same time. And when you look back on your past, because hindsight is always 2020, um, you can literally see where God was there and how He orchestrated the whole thing, the whole thing. But what God really wants is the glory. And I have that testimony, not because right when it happened, I was supposed to go out and say, oh my God, God shift my perspective. I didn't know it was God then. All I knew is that, I was praying to God at first to not take my grandma, and then my perspective shifted. And I keep using that example, but that could be with anything. Just know that God is there. He already has it worked out. It's already done. And there's nothing that you have to do but pray. And after you finish praying, put on your favorite worship song and go for broke. Sis, go for broke. Okay? Go for broke. Late in the midnight hour, God's going to turn it around. Okay? Your favorite songs, Tasha Cobb's, like whatever it is, Maverick City, throw it on and go for broke. Feel like you on that stage and you performing like they called you up there, and go for broke. Because every time you praise when you're going through something, chains are being broken. Chains are being broken. And your breakthrough is coming sooner than you think. God is trying to test your faith through every trial and tribulation. Don't forget that. And I definitely hope that this episode and the gems that I dropped help somebody. So please share this episode, subscribe to this podcast, please, and share this episode. When you subscribe, when you leave a review, when you share the episode, you help me reach more people, which in turn help me reach more people. Because if you share it to somebody and they share it to somebody and they share it to somebody, you're getting this show out there. And especially because I never wanted to do this, so you know that this is a God thing. Okay, I could be like in my bed somewhere or watching TV or sleep, but I'm up here talking about the goodness of God and how He is constant, and to share hope and motivation with somebody who needs it. And so please, please, please share this podcast. Please subscribe. Please join our Facebook group and give feedback about the podcast and give feedback about what you thought about it and what you took from it and how it might have helped you or given you insight. But I'm telling you, if you don't pray, sis, go for broke. Turn on your favorite song, your favorite. I'm telling you, I don't know why I can't let this go, but turn on your favorite worship song. Put it on repeat if you have to, and go for broke. Even if you feel like you can't sing, I need you to sing at the top of your lungs, sis. Bro, like I need you to go for broke. Because in the spirit realm, you are unleashing. I'm telling you. I'm not even trying to go there. Thank y'all for tuning in today. Just thank you. You don't know how much of a blessing you were from hanging out with me, listening to this podcast, but also giving me the opportunity to do this. Like I said, share this podcast, like this podcast, leave a review, and join the Facebook group so we can create our little community and talk about the goodness of God in a modern way and give God the glory. Oh, of course, as always, I'm praying over all of you. And please have a great week. And I will see y'all on the next episode. Bye, guys.